Helldivers players just want to play the game and don't care too much about the galactic war. That was an interesting statement made by the game's CEO, Shams Jorjani, where, like he has so many times in the past, he decided to say the quiet part out loud. But what if there is more to this discussion that meets the eye, comboing players, incentives, new content, and even FOMO? Yeah, there's a lot here, and in today's video, I also touch on a bit more than that, so stay tuned for everything. If you want to support the channel, the easy and free way is to hit subscribe and ring the notifications bell. Chapters are up and available for this one, and now, let's check out all the latest with Helldivers. We're going to get into the meat of this major order topic in just a moment, but first, let's actually check out what's going on right now with the active MO, and the divers look like they are powering through the Illuminate. With just over a day to go, we are sitting pretty at 5 out of 6 defenses completed versus the Squid, with number 6 currently in the middle of a tough firefight down on Aldridge Cove. Since it has about 3 hours to go as of the time of this recording, you could get in a Squid operation and help the cause before the major order is completed, but that's up to the nearly 57,000 divers that are currently logged on. If bots are more your thing, Ingmar has a level 7 defense which is being fed from Mort, a rather significant planet in Helldivers lore. Can you say Steam maintenance? Yeah, if you know, you know. And if you're still stockpiling medals, today's daily order is to rip up 100 enemies with the Gatling Sentry, which by the way is my favorite automated sentry in the entire game, and you should be able to knock out all 100 kills by your second deployment, maybe if you're lucky, in your first. And finally, today's Superstore is a 4-page reset, including the Fortified Commando and Eradicator sets on page 1, the Light Gunner and Dreadnought armors on page 2, the Executioner and Trench Paramedic on page 3, and the sweet-looking Juggernaut and Exterminator sets on page 4. Yeah, still no Killzone page 1 offerings, which makes me wonder when or if these sets are truly in the rotation, because at this point, we've seen everything else the game has to offer in terms of armor, and we've seen them multiple times. By the way, please let me know if you've seen anything official from Arrowhead indicating that the Killzone sets are not in this Superstore rotation, or anything related to that topic in the comments section below. Please and thank you. Now, on to one of the stories I've been pinged about over the past few days, which has to do with PC players who were previously enjoying HD2 on PC, only to find out they were suddenly getting locked out of playing the game, as explained by this Verge headline: Helldivers 2 is locking out players who use older CPUs. Now, the issue comes from Arrowhead and Sony's requirement that PC players play on systems that support AVX2, or Advanced Vector Extensions, which has been a feature on CPUs since around 2013. So, this is hitting PC users with 10-plus-year-old hardware. The matter became actually heated with, as they describe in the article, a community volunteer named 𝗏𝗏. Personally, I've never heard of this person, who actually clapped back with this statement, quote, "I don't like to have to tell people their 13-year-old processor is out of date. I have fielded this question hundreds of times in the past week. I sit here and I help people in 48-hour stints before going to bed. People will piss and moan and argue, not to mention insult and attack us for being the bearers of bad news. I get your venting, but as I keep saying, it is up to you as the consumer to confirm your system meets spec before purchase, and you should never be surprised if your out-of-spec machine can't run the game." Okay, let's press pause on the Verge article for just a moment, because luckily there is an update to this one, which we can find in the known issues board, where it says the game will crash on Hellpod launch sequences when using older CPUs that don't support AVX2. So, there it is confirmed. It's on the radar of the developers at Arrowhead, and hopefully it will get fixed in short order. Also, some recent issues a lot of us are seeing right now in the game, like the blurry anti-aliasing and floaty Helldivers body parts like the torsos are also showing up here on the list. Although one that has landed really well with the community, Quasar Cannon pre-charging, is also showing up here on the list, and I really hope they decide to leave this in the game, much like they did with Siege Ready, and give the community a W for this one. If any tinkering needs to be done, I don't know, maybe increase the cooldown between shots by a few seconds, something like that. But what I'm seeing is that players are liking the change and want to keep the unintended bug in the game. And now onto the heart of this video. The Galactic War isn't working. We also see these headlines. The majority of the player base does not care for MOs. Players need to take some accountability and stop blaming the devs. The trick is, of course, that many just want to play and don't care too much about the Galactic War. It worked. Gameplay incentive for players to focus on major orders outside of narration. And this topic goes on and on and on. What's the deal with Helldivers 2 and its major order mechanics is the topic you see in many social channels. I mean, it's relevant, it's something you can look at critically, and it's what I want to discuss because at its core, Helldivers is a live service game, but outside of the normal scope of what players think of as live service. So to preface this topic, I wanted to say a little bit about me and how I engage with HD2 so you can understand my point of view. And I tend to run with dedicated players from my Discord, link to which can be found in the video description, and you're always welcome to join our community. And we almost always hit level 10 missions. We hot drop for the absolute insanity, and in general, we all bring loadouts to handle whatever the game can throw at us. We understand the mechanics of enemies and mission types. There's really nothing we can't handle, and occasionally, yes, we engage in a little PvP just to keep things spicy. If there's work to be done with a major order, we are there, but sometimes we also stray far off the beaten path and put in some time on some obscure rock with little consequence for the Galactic War just because we feel like going there. I also wanted to briefly mention that I'm just one dedicated diver out here with a mic and a YouTube channel. My opinion is no more important than yours, and it is, at the end of the day, an opinion. It may differ from your point of view, and that doesn't make us enemies. So when I do say that there is absolutely a 1,000,000% issue with the way Arrowhead presents major orders, and in general, in-game information to the players, it comes from a place of love and experience with this game. Here, look at it like this. You're a player who's got a few hours to log in and play after a long day or maybe a long week at work, and the first thing you see when you log in is a blinking shield emblem with pulsing lines coming out of it that is literally screaming at you, "Look at me, this is where you should be playing, so come join in over here." Now, by comparison, week after week, we hear about, say, gambits. We should have pulled off the gambit here, or we should have pulled off the gambit over there, but the reality is, most players do not watch YouTube. They don't check out Reddit or the wiki, and so when they log in, they don't know what a gambit is, what it could potentially do, or really anything like that. Hell, I've run into experienced players that didn't know how to toggle the dispatch tab at the bottom of their screens, let alone pay attention to the information down there about how to perform a gambit. Again, players log in, they see Blinky Thing, they go to Blinky Thing, end of story. But when you start to break it down, there's actually a lot more factors at play here, like what faction is it? What kind of planet is it? Will I be able to see, or will there be so much smoke and fog that my eyes begin to bleed? What level is the defense currently set at? Is Joel out of his freaking mind so much that after I log off, will I feel like my 1 or 2 hours made not a shred of difference? And last, but most importantly, will I be taking on a new enemy unit or new content? And as I started to think about this issue of players and the disconnect between the major orders and how they engage with them, this is the single biggest issue: content. Again, Helldivers is a live service game. Maybe not in the normal sense of the term, but it is. Yes, the Galactic War is fluid, it's ever-changing, bots, bugs, squid, and locations and dynamics, but the thing that keeps players coming back and really hitting the game is, again, content. Now, this could be larger items like new enemies and biomes, or it could be something less major, like a free stratagem while taking on a planet, or like what Arrowhead did this week, giving players the new grenade launcher Grenadier battlement to test out. Hell, even war bonds could be looked at as content, but where we start to see a lot of issues with players and major orders has to do with either this introduction of content or the value players are placing in the MOs themselves. And let me explain. For instance, Like we saw recently, we had the new incinerator core over on some random bot planet, sorry I forgot the name of it, that was not involved with the major order. We failed that major order, by the way, with one of the major contributing factors coming down to players choosing to go hit the new flame bots instead of follow the instructions in the MO briefing. And believe me, I don't blame those players. They wanted to go see and experience that new content, but it was somewhere else. And that falls onto Arrowhead and the fact that they should have combined the major order and the new enemies. And I think you get the picture here. We've also seen really long narrative buildups to content. These uber long teases that, to be honest, have fallen completely flat. For instance, the squid moving on Angel's Venture. They hit the planet, it's ripped to shreds, and nothing. A day of remembrance, followed up by a completely unrelated major order, while the planet just kind of sits out there, destroyed in space. We could have had evacuation missions prior to the Meridia wormhole ripping it to pieces. That would have been immersive, but we got nothing. We could have had combat missions on Angel's Venture, taking on squid vanguard units while seeing that massive wormhole up in a skybox that didn't happen. And in the end, we had this build-up, we had this tease, the planet got destroyed, and then we ended up with a recycled MP4 that plays in a loop with debris slowly rotating. While we're on this topic, how about this example? What about the gloom? And I've spoken about this in a past video. We had months and months of buildup. The gloom is coming. What are we going to be able to do in there? It's spreading. Oh no, the bugs are attacking. And the day finally arrives, we get the Gloom Dive versus the Predator strain, which everybody adored. We had new loadouts, we had new tactics, you had these super insanely fast bugs that could cloak, and they were here for what, 4 or 5 days? Then they were followed up by the Gloom Cloud bugs and those heavy spawns, which, yeah, was another way of attacking the bugs, and those were here for, again, what, less than a week, and now we're completely cut off from the gloom, sacrificed for the story narrative of the war, when in reality, we were having the time of our lives versus those Predator and Gloom Cloud enemies, and all we, the players, wanted was more of that. I blame Crazymrpipz and ThiccFilA, and by the way, both of these guys are S-tier people and players I got to meet in Stockholm at HQ, and both of whom uploaded videos touching on this very topic. Links in the video description to their channels, and you should definitely go check them out and tell them Buzz sent you, but they had pretty much the same to say on this matter as well. In fact, if I could for a moment, jumping back to Shams' comment, many just want to play and don't care too much for the Galactic War. And that's coming from the studio's CEO. And in my opinion, this is because of how Arrowhead is designing the major orders. This is a problem of their own creation. You need to make players feel like their time and effort is actually making a difference in the Galactic War. Incentives like new content, new enemies, and new stratagems for free or to test comboed with a major order will definitely get the players more engaged. Also, make the planets a bit more tempting to play on for these campaigns. Why are we constantly seeing massive visibility issues and increased call-in times anytime we hit a major order planet? Also, forcing players who have limited playtime in their schedules to either A, take on the major order, or B, to not take on the major order but to engage with the new enemy types and missions which are time limited creates this FOMO effect within the player base. Predator strain, here and gone. Squids showing up and then disappearing. New bots on non-MO planets. I mean, these are all examples of what you're doing. If you force a player to choose, I'm sorry to say it, but they're going to choose the new hotness versus a filler major order based on resource gathering or overall kill counts. And finally, Arrowhead, you have to improve your communication skills. The majority of players are not in Discord, they're not in YouTube, and they don't comb through Reddit. Therefore, you've got to educate or inform them through in-game methods, which again, to be brutally honest here, leave a lot to be desired. As always, I want to read your feedback about major orders and how they are designed. Are you loyal to just one faction? Do you follow the blinking indicators and that's it? What do you like about the system and what could be improved? Definitely drop me some feedback about this one. Now, if you've watched my past uploads, you know I absolutely adore Helldivers 2, but that doesn't mean I can't be critical of the design decisions, and I'm not going to be going full Doom Diver on the game, but with some work and redesign of the systems, it could really incentivize players to play those major orders through the combination of both new content along with small incentives. Remember to hit subscribe and ring the notifications bell to receive my latest upload alerts. All my socials, including links to today's sources, can be found in the video description. And until the next one, this is Lieutenant Buzz Lightyear, signing off.